You ready for round two?
Yeah. Yes, I am. For once.
All right. All right, guys, welcome back. Hi, I am Patrick, and this is...
I'm Ashley.
And we are glad to have you back for All the Way. A quick reminder, last week, if you haven't seen the video, go back, check it out. Last week was episode 2, part 1. We were covering the book Love and Respect by Dr. Emerson Eggers. We did the first part of it, which is love, and that's how to spell love for your wife. How
My
to
favorite
make
part.
her happy, fellas.
And it works.
If you haven't checked that out, check it out for sure. All the videos are available. It was kind of a long one, so we broke that up into individual parts.
Yeah.
So you can go back and watch just the C and just the H and A and the I and the R. So we just broke up each part.
Couple. Not cheers.
Sorry.
He's ahead of us. Couple. Closeness,
Just,
openness, understanding, peacemaking, loyalty, and esteem. They all are very, very, very important.
Yeah. And today we are going to do chairs. So we're going to cover the respect part of the book.
Right.
And
which is chairs.
That's chairs.
Yeah.
And that is for who?
Men.
That's for men. All right.
So it might make all men very, very happy, and all the women go, "What?
Well,
What is that word right there, girl? What's that mean?"
Respect. That's a big one. It's scary, right? Because
It's terrifying.
it's all about ego.
When I first heard that word, I was like, "Oh yeah, I bet you think so." That was my first reaction. Was I need love and you need respect. That doesn't surprise me at all.
It's true.
But then I realized, after actually reading it and learning more about respect and the respect principles for men, that it's not about like dominance or like being submissive to men. I don't think men really want that either. So it's like it's a completely misinterpreted word, I think.
Absolutely.
Respect. So at first it may seem a little like, whoa, this is against the grain. What are you doing, Ashley? But it's not about male versus women or a power thing. This has nothing to do with power, right?
Right. Absolutely.
A true relationship between a man and a woman is completely equal. There's no shift. There's no power.
Yeah.
But you both have strengths. And if you both can apply your strengths to the relationship together, then you're a team, right? So it's about being a team. And the word respect is a wonderful way you can think about how your husband or boyfriend or male partner needs to feel in order for him to get what he needs out of the relationship. Right?
Yeah.
It's his strengths, really.
And that's what's at the core of all of this, is that any good relationship is 100-100. It's not 50-50. It's not all about one or the other. And if it becomes that way, you end up with a really bad relationship.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do any of the things that relationships are supposed to do. It's supposed to make you happy. It's supposed to build you up. You're supposed to grow together. You're supposed to like want things. And at the core of it, men and women are just different. But when we apply these things, we can turn those differences into a strength.
Huge. Yeah.
And really, really find happiness. And that's what Ashley and I have done I think a good job of.
Yeah, and I think that is why you want to be in a relationship at all. You know, I mean, maybe
to be happy.
Well, to yes, and to do something together. You know, I think relationships, and why we're doing this series at all is because if you're in a normal relationship and maybe you're watching this saying, "Hey, I've been married for 20 years. Why would I bother listening to these kids?" I mean, and that you may be right. I mean, you have every right to think that. But I would just question you to ask yourself, how much difference is your relationship making for everybody? Are you really setting an example for everybody? Is you as a husband and wife, are you really doing all you can together? And are you working together in a way where you're making a difference in other areas because you are so strong that you're able to affect some really bigger things than yourselves? And you're not going to be able to do that for your community or your family or your friends or your influences or anybody if you don't have this real good and at peak performance, really. I mean, it's a weird way to look at it, but that's why we're in relationships. The chemistry, it's important and you need that, but it's going to go away. You know, the honeymoon phase is over, honey. Like that fades out, and is a relationship you can either flatline and maybe slowly go down, like degrade in quality. And that's death.
Yeah.
That's going to end in a poor...
If you're going this way, the rest of the world's going like this.
Yeah.
So by definition, you're losing.
Or, you know, if you're really learning how to sync with your person, if you're really learning how to make sure that you are fulfilling their needs and then they are fulfilling your needs by return, naturally, then you and your person can really do some really cool things in the world. And your relationship goes much bigger, much farther than yourself.
Word.
Yeah. I think what we should talk about just really quickly is a respect and what that means to men.
Sure.
And I think you could elaborate on that. Just in general.
Well, respect is an interesting thing because this is something that might sound a little taboo and maybe not get the greatest reviews, maybe especially with women. But ask your man, ask your husband, and in a very honest way, if he's, he'll be honest with you if he can. The truth is, men need respect before they need love.
Yeah.
I need to know. I need to be loved, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like I'm just a cold, heartless, hollow.
No.
But the respect is important. There are certain things that are genetic, I think, that are built into men to do, especially to do for your wife and for your family, and that you just need to know that that's appreciated, and it's appreciated through respect.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what, ultimately, there's emotional needs in women, right? Well, men have a need to be respected, and that needs to be filled just as badly. It's a need. It's not a want.
It's like love for men. It's like love for women, but it's men's version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
vital.
It was a brand new concept to me. I mean, I thought before, when I was in relationships previously, that I was just going to be good. I thought I knew what I was doing when I had men and boyfriends, and I thought I was taking good care of them or whatever, and I wasn't, because I didn't have any idea what they needed. I had no clue. No one ever talks about this. It's really taboo for a guy to come to a girl and say, hey, I need respect, and they're going to be like, what are you talking about? That's crazy. And so I think educating myself on what men need has made a huge difference in my life personally and our relationship, and it's been great because it's not only given you what you need, which is great, which is awesome, but it's given me, I have a guideline of what I need to make sure I'm doing, in the relationship to be a good partner for you, to show up as a great, girlfriend or wife or whatever it has turned into. I'm a wife now, but I've been doing this the whole time. So for me to make sure that you understand how much I want to be in this relationship and how much I want you to be happy, this has been a huge, huge thing for me to learn.
Absolutely. And it's worked.
And I didn't know any of this. Like, this is all brand new to me. But you knew it all.
Yeah, well.
When we first started talking about this, you were like, yep.
Well, in the same way that we were reading through Couple, and you're going, yeah, and I'm going, really?
Yeah.
It's just it's sort of taboo for a man to ask for a lot of these things. Well, it's not generally accepted for a man to really voice his needs in a relationship, because his job is to make the woman happy.
Sure.
Period. And then it's about the long and short of it.
Yeah.
But there's way more to it. So let's
start.
Yeah. So the first part of chairs, the C, is conquest,
Right.
right?
Conquest.
Conquest in a man is men have this desire to work and to achieve and to build things and to provide for their family and for their wife and for, that's huge
Yeah.
for a man.
I think even single men have that.
Mhm.
They're always conquesting, if I can say that, but always out trying to do something. They're always trying to accomplish something. Like men are always goal-oriented naturally and focused on doing something. Even little boys, you see them, they're solving or they're doing something, they're trying something. Like if they see a hill, they're going to climb the hill or rock wall, they're going to find a way to get up that rock wall, right? Like men are always doing that. It's like in your nature, yeah?
Mhm.
And women
Trying to
don't do
achieve.
that.
And I think that gets one of the ways that gets twisted into sort of a negative thing is it gets turned into this need for to constantly have to win and this need to constantly be competing.
Yeah.
And so it ends up taking, and a lot of guys are like,
Well,
okay, well, I want to win. I
There
want
is
to
a lot of
compete.
competing in
Let's
men,
do
yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
But it gets kind of twisted into like a negative sort of connotation.
I think it's misunderstood by women because it's not in our nature to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you'll find too, women may call their husbands workaholics or, he spends so much time on his job and he doesn't spend time on me. Why does all he do talk about his job? Isn't he going to talk about our family? I mean, he cares so much about his job. Or what he's doing, or school, or his conquests, and it doesn't go very far with your guy if you can't, appreciate the fact that he's out conquesting, and if you can appreciate conquest and see that in him and respect that in him, he's going to feel very respected, and that's going to go really far for him.
Yeah. Just recognize that that's how it manifests.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily a need to always win and be the best at everything, and maybe it is, but the way that it manifests in a family setting and in the marriage is that it's through his work, his achievements, and all of those things in a man's mind directly relate to, look what I did for my family.
Mm-hmm. Very, very important that he feels that you, or thinks or whatever, that you appreciate that.
Yeah.
The wife. So when he wants to come home and talk about his work, my best advice is to let him and listen to him about his stories about work as much as you want him to listen to you about your stories about everything you do with your life, your kids or your friends or what you're going for. It is more important for a man to have that than it is for a girl to have that. So definitely, and also what I like to do is once you get these letters down pretty good, you'll see you can do it really naturally. But if Patrick comes home and he starts talking to me about work or he brings up some sort of story, I have like a little dinger in my brain that goes ding, ding, ding. This is an opportunity that I can show him that I respect him. So I will, maybe I'm not perfect, but if I'm doing really good, I can actively take a step back and let you, talk to me about your current conquests. Mm-hmm. Just so I know and you know that I am with you and I want to support you and that I can appreciate that he does that.
That's good. That's probably the biggest thing for me is, when I come home, just listen to work stories.
Because it's important, right? They devote a lot of their time and attention on.
It can be really demotivating to come home and try to tell a story and then have one of the kids or something start talking about something completely different.
Which happens every day.
And you just have it be completely forgotten. So
yeah. But conquest is important. When your husband's out trying to achieve something, take that seriously because he does.
Absolutely. Okay, so the next letter in the chair's acronym is H, and that is for hierarchy.
Hierarchy, that sounds scary.
Right? Another one of those words are like, does that mean that man's going to be over me and I'm inherently underneath him.
Are you the boss of me?
You don't have to be the boss of me.
I'm not. No,
That's not
ain't
fair.
nobody the boss of me. Okay.
I don't need no man.
I was single before you, and I was doing just fine.
And when we wreck our marriage, you'll be single after.
We're
me,
not gonna
right?
wreck our marriage.
Not us,
no,
of
no.
course. But
But yeah, that could be that's definitely a gut thing. Like, whoa.
so there's important, and so hierarchy is exactly what it says. But you have to understand what it means in a man. So the point of
Yes.
all of this is to understand what's in a man and why men are the way that they are.
Yeah.
Hierarchy is not so, it's taught to us, it's in our blood, it's in our nature to want to fight and protect and die for the things that we care the most about, for our family. You watch little boys play together. They'll play cowboys and Indians or whatever, and you'll take a bullet for your friend, and you're like, oh, you know, and it's just
That's
it's
cute.
just in men, and that actually translates into when you're a husband. It's true in the most literal sense that a man would fight and die to protect his family
Yeah.
in a heartbeat. And so how does that, I mean, does that exist so much in women for her husband, for a wife?
Yeah,
For
I
her
mean,
kids,
I think.
right? Probably more.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of women that will sacrifice a lot for their family, but it's different. It's not like what you're talking about. You're just talking about, and way beyond that too. So it's not even about what happens when an emergency. You're just what it is for men is they have a constant need to provide, like a deep-seated, rooted need, where even if you don't have much, you're going to do whatever you can, however you can, to constantly bring and improve the family. And, you know, I think women should really learn to appreciate that about men. And hierarchy is a strange word, but I think that it encompasses a couple of things. He wants to be able to provide, so he wants to be able to have some skills. And Dr. Eggerichs makes a really good point in the book that if a guy is going to die for you, since we're talking about that, then there's a little bit of him that wants a tiny bit of authority over what you're going to do when you're going to do it. Just a teeny bit. Just because he wants some idea, like some safety zone, like he can make sure you're not about to go die, because he's the one that's going to have to die for you, right?
Sure.
That's kind of like, I mean, that's what we're talking about for hierarchy. But also, you know, he doesn't want to be put down in public, and he doesn't want his family to think that he's not good enough for them. So there's a lot of hierarchy when you're talking about your husband. Like, think about him as somebody who's doing so much for you and working so hard, and his main goal is to help you in however capacity he can. Now, he's not a magician, so he can't come and just poof, everything's perfect for you, and that's fine. Just know that if there's any kind of complaining, or you're really frustrated with the way your family's going, or what you guys are working on, or maybe you're not working on anything, you're not doing anybody any good by complaining or arguing about it. Much better to understand his natural tendencies to have a little bit of a leader role that he wants, and support that, you know, because he's gonna do it anyways. So he can't help it, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you don't need to give up. It's not a power thing. It's just that that's what he needs in his life to be satisfied. That is a need.
Yeah. It's ultimately honoring what's in your boyfriend, your husband, to that need for him to protect and to provide, and that willingness to fight and die is there. It is real. It is a need, and he just needs validation from you.
Yeah.
If you can validate that need in him and just validate, so just tell him, hey, I appreciate you working.
Yeah.
Thank you for going to work for our family. Thank you for trying so hard.
Right. It's important.
You know.
You need that in your family structure. You know, if you have that and you can make that work for you, you're going to be way farther ahead than a lot of people.
Watch his eyes light up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also, I think the other thing about hierarchy too is like it's a ride or die mentality. You know, men men want their women and their wives to be with them through life. Like, are you in this with me or are you not? And I'm going and things are going to be bumpy and like, we don't know what's going to be around the corner. It's like, hey, we're together, we're in this together, I believe in you. That is really important, I think,
It's
too.
huge.
Yeah.
The next letter is A,
A.
and that A is for authority.
Mm-hmm.
Now that goes hand in hand with all of these.
Yeah, they all kind of go together.
And it's funny, it's interesting when we start talking about how it all goes together. While we were talking about hierarchy, you actually said the word authority.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Just like in couple,
Yeah.
closeness, openness, understanding, they're very similar.
You know, so there's authority is exactly what it sounds like. It is allowing your husband, there's a need, a very real need for your husband to make decisions. And, you know, you're, as a man, I feel deeply and responsible for what we do as a family and the decisions that are being made and the direction that we're taking. And, you know, there's a huge amount of responsibility, and that's a burden that men, and like I can say for me, and I think a lot of men are happy to bear that burden. You know, let's do it. But it's,
Isn't that nice?
it is, you know, but you can literally cut the legs out from underneath a man when you remove his authority.
Yes.
So, like, guys,
You're not doing anybody any good by one of us making more decisions than the other, or behind each other's back, or whatever. Like, the way the family operates, I mean, not either way, men or women, you're not doing any good if you guys are not communicating about your decisions. Now, if you really want to really get good at your communication about decisions, make sure that the man has the opportunity to make decisions a lot. And women should also realize that men think differently than us. They are logical. They see things a lot differently. They see scenarios a lot differently than we do. And maybe you might think that it's the wrong decision or you're not sure about it, but it's going to go a long way if you can appreciate what he can bring to your family. Right?
absolutely.
Like, that's a huge part. Like, you're a man, and that is a huge bonus to our family. It is never a detriment.
And there's a fear component here that makes that I think makes this really difficult.
Yeah.
Because there's a fear,
That's right.
and that if I let him choose, then he's not going to make the right decision.
Mm-hmm. Or he's going to walk all over me.
He is just going to use me as a doormat. Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge for
Yeah.
women. I'm glad you brought that up.
So for guys to feel like I can't make a decision because if I make the wrong decision, I'm going to get hammered for it.
There's another fear.
It's just completely, you know.
But if you give a man the responsibility to make the decision, 10 times out of 10, he's going to make a decision for you that you want anyways. Like, that's the other lesson to learn. Like, if you allow him to be a provider and have a little more authority in your family in some areas that he would be naturally good at, you're going to be shocked when he actually makes decisions in your favor completely naturally. Mm-hmm. Because all he wants to do is to provide and make you happy.
He wants to make you happy.
Well, we're talking to women. So, I mean, if we are. So, if you let him, you're probably going to be really happy with his decisions.
Absolutely.
But if you don't understand he needs that, and you don't have the ability to fully trust him on that, you know, you should work towards that and just experiment. Let your husband make some decisions. I mean, if you're afraid he's going to make some mistakes, let him make mistakes. He's a human, and you'll be surprised when he doesn't make that many.
Yeah.
No?
Let him make decisions. Make him.
Yes.
Let him get to a point where he knows he can make decisions.
Yeah.
And then if, you know, nobody's perfect.
Right.
It isn't to say that every decision you've ever made, ladies, has been perfect, right? It's not going to be.
Right.
People make mistakes. So if a man, let him make a decision. Let him make decisions. Give him the authority. And if he does something that maybe you're not that happy with, or you feel like he made the wrong decision, give him a little bit of slack and just talk to him. Instead of hammering him and going, I knew it! Give it back!
It's never gonna do any. You're never gonna get anywhere like that.
He's just gonna shut down, and then your marriage eventually, it's bad. It takes you to a bad place. And that's, it's a big part of what Dr. Eggerichs is talking about.
Yeah, men want to be leaders. They are striving every day to be a leader in their life. And being a leader in your family is really important, And if they can be the leader in the family, if that's your dynamic, in some areas, of course, then they're going to feel really respected, and they're going to be really happy. And in terms, they're going to love you the way you need to be loved.
Yeah.
And it's a simple thing. The other thing about authority too is don't play any games with him. Don't manipulate him. If you think that you can communicate to him how you want to be treated by withholding something or acting a certain way or I don't know, disappearing or not answering his call or whatever we all do sometimes, try to limit that, because that's not a very respectful way to treat your person.
It's just going to hurt.
Yeah.
The next letter is I, and that is insight. So insight is a very, another one that's pretty important.
This is more about the brain though, and a little less about
Yeah, it's a lot more about recognizing in your husband how he thinks and how he's going to approach basically everything. Especially, and just recognizing that this is one of the, I think we'll cover this and probably a little bit in maybe all of our videos, but
yeah, you guys are going to hear this all.
There's a huge difference between men and women and the way that we approach problems and the way that we approach problem solving.
Yeah.
Men are very analytical.
Yeah, logical.
Very logical.
Extremely logical.
Women tend to be more emotional.
Not tend to be. Are. Like literally where, not to interrupt you, sorry,
go ahead.
Literally where your instinctual reaction to a situation is emotional, logical. Very, very different. Now, men can be logical and then have emotions. Women can have emotions and then logic. But the very first gut response to everything in life is logical, emotional. Women and men. And you cannot change that. Okay? So men can be logically emotional and women can be emotionally logical. So anyway, so we'll talk more about that in future videos. That has a lot to do with everything you do in your relationship.
That's an hour video all by itself.
But men are logical, and how that applies to insight is that they think about things differently, and their initial response, their initial trigger is always going to be from that logical place.
Yeah.
It's a huge benefit. That is a huge benefit to your relationship. Hello? Yeah. I don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't need to do that because I have him.
So there's value there. That's the whole point of this chapter with insight, is recognizing the value in the way that a man will approach the problem.
Yes.
And the way, because first of all, when a man is presented with a problem, in general, one of the first things that's going to come to his mind is, how do I fix that?
It's logical.
How do I solve that problem?
That makes sense to me, logically.
Yeah. Got it. Okay, that's a problem. How am I going to fix it?
Right.
And I'm moving directly to the fix.
Which is fine.
Yeah, and if you recognize that, you can use that to your...
Get things fixed.
Exactly. Use that to your benefit.
Yeah.
And then there are going to be times, if we're being honest, where you don't want him to fix anything.
True.
So just tell him.
That's okay.
Tell him up front, I need your ear, not your mouth, homie. I just need you to listen. Don't talk. Don't fix my problem. Just listen to me.
Yeah, and don't get upset when he does. Like, that's the insight. So when he acts that way, don't act negatively. Try to stay positive. But also, other thing about insight and the logical thinking is use that to your advantage. Like, I'll bring that up again, that, think of your husband as somebody who can think about things a lot differently than you can. So if you have situations in your life and you're trying to brainstorm how you can do this, and you're maybe seeing one or two angles of it, you might be surprised that if you just bring it up to him and ask him and say, hey, what do you think I should do here? He will come out with something that you didn't even consider. It happens all the time with us. All the time I ask Patrick what he thinks, because I know that he's going to say something that I wouldn't think. And then sometimes I always listen to him. Like, I always hear him out. And sometimes I'll say, great idea, I'm going to do that for sure. Or I'll say, well, if this happens, and we'll talk about it further or whatever. But just knowing that your husband can bring a completely different perspective for you mentally is going to be so great for your life, because you and him are going to be able to kind of hit everything at all angles.
Right.
It's huge.
Huge. We said it at the same time.
Yeah, because we sync.
Yeah.
And so that's also another way, when you do that with your husband, that he can feel like you really honor his insight. You really understand that what he can offer the relationship mentally, is appreciated, because it's a big deal. There's a lot of things men can bring to our lives that we should be really happy to utilize.
Yeah. Remember, all of this is think of all of these things in terms of respect. Mm-hmm. So insight is going, you have a way of thinking and a knowledge and an approach that's different than mine.
That I don't have, yeah.
That I hear and I appreciate.
Yeah. I can't tell you
that's
how many
respect.
times, how many times in my relationship now, Patrick has helped me solve something that I would not have been able to solve it myself. That's hands down, I can say that. And then also way quicker. Way quicker. Mm-hmm. I excuse me if I say that, but I bounce things off of him all the time that are logical, that I need a logical response to,
Yeah. That's good.
And other things too. It's not just about logic, but he has a different perspective. He has a different life. He's been other places than me. He's done different things than me. He has a totally different experience than me. So just by asking him or brainstorming things with him, he teaches me a lot, is what I'm trying to say. He teaches me a lot.
Good. All right. The next letter in the chair's acronym is R. And R is relationship.
This is a good one.
They, I think, could have just as easily... This is a big one for me.
Me too.
I feel like they could have just as easily called this friendship, but that would have been weird. Chafes?
Chafes. Chairs is better.
Yeah.
So this is the R.
Relationship. This is understanding what your man needs. And... So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back it all the way up to when I was a kid. Look at little boys and how they play. So when I wanted to hang out with my buddy, I had a good buddy, Jason, still a good buddy, would hang out. I would get on my bicycle, ride to his house, and we'd hang out. That was friendship.
But what does that look like?
So we would hang out.
Because girls do that too.
We would
so
play,
how is that different?
We would play basketball. We would play, go out into the woods. We would go and play video games or whatever. Mm-hmm. We would just do the activities that we were going to do together.
Yeah.
And it's sort of understood. That's what friendship is.
You just be there for each other.
Just hanging out, yeah. And what he calls it, Dr. Eggerichs, is shoulder to shoulder.
Shoulder to shoulder time. Well, that's a little different. Yeah, that I think, and I could be wrong, but shoulder to shoulder is when you do things together and you don't talk.
Well, we talked. We just didn't really talk about our feelings.
But
so
you don't.
Like, how you feeling, dude?
I guess you don't understand
hungry? I don't
the
know.
level of how much women talk.
Yeah, sure. But that's the difference, right? I do, and that's what I'm trying to highlight.
You can talk, but you guys didn't talk.
Well, the emotion and
girls,
the friendship part of it was understood.
Yeah.
And in most men, it is understood. I don't need to like go to a friend's, hang out with a buddy and be like, "Do you still like me? Tell me about your feelings." Like it's just
Girls don't do that.
If I didn't like you, I wouldn't be there.
No, but what I'm saying is
that's shoulder to shoulder time with a guy.
it's nonverbal for men. Shoulder to shoulder time is when you do something together and you're just
not talking.
in the same space with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Girls do that too, but we do face to face.
Sure.
Now, shoulder to shoulder is like you don't need a face to face. You're just doing things together. And girls, when they spend time together, we sit and have coffee and we talk to each other. We go get lunch, we talk to each other. We do our nails and we talk to each other. We like interact with each other a lot more face to face, and we probably covered that in closeness,
sure.
in couple. But for the relationship part of men, it's shoulder to shoulder time is what it's called. And it's when you're in the same space as people, two men or men and women or whatever, and you don't interact as much. You just are together doing things at the same time, right?
Yeah, and so that's why I told the story about me and my best friend growing up, because that's I think the root of it in most men. So that was probably one of my best friends growing up. When guys grow up and they find their girlfriend and they get married, they want their wife to be their best friend. Mm-hmm. I want you to be my best friend. I want you to do those things with me too.
Yeah.
And that translates into
shoulder to shoulder
needing you to just be where I'm at.
Yeah.
Just be with me. Just hang out. Watch the game with me.
That blew my mind when I read this part years ago and then I started watching men in general and I was like, they do that with each other.
Yeah.
I started like looking around and like I realized that men will get together. They'll sit on a couch together because they're all just hanging out. They're just being comfortable. And they'll watch a movie together, or they'll play video games together, or they'll do whatever they're doing together. They'll barbecue together, they'll play golf together, whatever they're going to be doing. Mm-hmm. And they are just doing it with each other, but not talking about what they're doing or anything.
They're just hanging out.
Yeah, they're just in the same space together. So, it's a big deal for men when women can do that for them, with them. And it is huge to a man's like energy, what he needs, and how a woman can really bring your relationship up a whole nother notch if you get this. All you have to do, and it's like completely in the book. I'm right?
Yeah.
I know, it's a big deal. All you have to do, and it's not something women do naturally. But first of all, if your guy ever invites you somewhere, sometimes you'll see him do that. He'll be like, honey, come watch this movie with me, or hey babe, come sit in the room, come sit down with me while I or I'm working online, or playing a game, or whatever he's doing. Sometimes, often, he'll invite you into the same space as him. That doesn't mean he wants you to come in and talk to him all day and tell him your stories or anything. He literally means come, sit,
just be in the same
and don't
space
talk.
as me. Yeah.
So
and
what?
Don't talk.
Don't talk. Girls are not gonna. But it's crucial.
Yeah.
It's crucial.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is you have to experiment with that, because it's completely unnatural for women. And I apologize for men that it's not, or we have to learn this so basically, because you guys get it so naturally. But you have to go. You have to sit down, and you have to do a little test, and you have to see how long you can go without talking. That's what I did to start. I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. Yeah. So I would sit down next to Patrick and I would like uncomfortably keep my mouth shut. I would be happy, but I would just sit there and he wouldn't say a word and I didn't say a word. And the whole time I was thinking, this is so awkward. And the whole time he was thinking,
this is awesome.
This is so nice.
This is fantastic.
And then eventually I noticed that he just got happier and happier and happier and happier. And sometimes you would look at me and just like smile. And then you like keep doing what you were doing. And I was like, this does work.
Yeah.
So now as our relationship has developed, we do that less and less because we just don't have as much time. But if I can, I try to make a point to watch him when he plays football or when he goes to the gym or when he works out. When he's doing what he wants to do for him, it's really important that I am somewhere in his space with him so that he feels like he has a friend. And that's his time and we don't talk. I don't need to talk the whole time. Sometimes I talk a lot more than I should, but It's an important part of the relationship. Oftentimes, literally, now at this point in our relationship, I don't think you really have to ask anymore. I mean, we don't ever really hang out in different rooms.
Yeah, that takes on a different form because eventually, I'll sort of follow you and just kind of be in the same room as you and be happy.
Yeah, sometimes he'll ask, like if I'm cooking dinner and he's in the office or whatever, sometimes he'll say, hey honey, come sit down with me for a second or whatever, and it's like, it's always a yes. You can never deny that ever. If you can, always do. And so I'll just grab my phone and I'll go sit on the couch in there while he's doing his business, and I will just sit there and watch videos or do what I need to do. When you're doing shoulder to shoulder time like that, is it important that I do what you're doing at the same time?
Not really. You just need to be there.
It's just quietly with you.
Just be there.
If I am doing what you're doing, is that better?
It can help.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just as nice to be shoulder to shoulder.
But you can't always, right?
Just hanging out, yeah. Because it needs another way of saying it's like, I know you love me, but do you like me?
Do you like me?
Yeah. That's important for guys too.
Huge.
Do you like me?
If you liked him, you would be with him.
If you do that, if you can give your man shoulder to shoulder time, you're filling a need for him. You're being that best friend that he needs, and you're legitimizing the things that he needs to do, what he wants to do for himself and for fun and just in general.
One of a really good example.
Lift him up.
One of a really good examples of shoulder to shoulder time for a really successful couple. I don't know. I can't remember if it's in the book or if it's in a different book or whatever. But it's simply that the guy in the neighborhood, the couple in the neighborhood that never got divorced, was the couple where the guy was always in the driveway working on his car. Like he was always the mechanic. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
He was working on his car in the driveway every afternoon. Every evening he would tinker with his car and stuff, which is great because that was what he was doing. And his wife was always in the chair on the driveway right by the car, and she was doing her nails. And she would just like sit there and do her nails like almost all the time. And that's what they did. So like she found a way to do stuff while he was doing what he wanted to do, but they were in the same space together. And they had shoulder to shoulder time.
Yeah.
Huge. If your guy's in the garage, I don't know, if your husband is in the garage working on something, I do this all the time with him. If he's out in the garage by himself, I always go out there with him. I don't let him be out there by himself. I mean, that's...
Just go sit.
No, I get a chair and I sit and I read my book and I just kind of like watch him do what he does and hang out with him. And
if he's watching the game, go sit and watch it with him.
Yeah. It's a big deal to him.
Quietly.
Quiet. You can't talk. That's the thing. And it's so hard.
I think that's probably one of the keys to shoulder is be quiet.
Yeah.
Because men don't need to talk the way you do.
Yeah.
You just don't. We want to make you happy, but...
And the way to get through it, girls, is to just test yourself. Make it a game. Be like, how long can I go without saying a word? And I mean a single word. Don't say it. And I'll try, I try to get through like an entire movie. I can't, but I try.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It's making you uncomfortable now.
It's hard.
All right.
Shoulder to shoulder is a big deal. And it's really awesome when you can incorporate that into your relationship.
Game changer.
Yeah.
So the last letter in the chair's acronym is S. And S stands for sexuality. That's a big one for guys.
Oh yeah.
And this it's desire for sexual intimacy. That is understanding in your husband that is different. It's different in men than it is for women.
Okay. Why?
In a lot of ways.
How so, sir?
So, when it comes to being intimate sexually, a lot of women would you agree with this? Tell me if you don't.
Yeah.
But would you want to be close to your husband so that you can then have sex?
Yeah.
For men, and like the sex is, being close is prerequisite to being intimate.
Yeah, it's much better.
Yeah. For men, the act of intimacy brings us closer.
It brings the closeness.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a problem for couples, isn't it?
That can be just,
We're very different in that sense.
yeah, that's that rock and a hard place.
Yeah, so what should couples do about that?
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is you have to be willing to recognize and understand that that's a major difference between men and women.
Yeah.
And that's coming from somewhere. And it's not, you know, his wanting to be intimate with you is some sort of like childish, or he's not a thing where he just can't control himself, or he's some sort of pervert and he's just all over you all the time. It's not a negative thing, because ultimately that need for sexual intimacy is a need.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's why it's in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
It's not just something that's really awesome we want to do all the time, and it's one of the, we talked about it before, it's one of those things that gets a really negative thing. You know, men get a really negative rap for having a need to be intimate.
Yes. Yes.
Sexually.
Well, and it's not just I think it's misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
Women don't have that same need sexually as men do. I mean, we're sexual creatures too. That's not what I'm saying. It's just the need is not there like it is for a man. We have much different needs. And it's in couple, if you need to go back and read that again or see those videos again. But sex is a need for man. It is a deep-rooted, deep-seated, instinctual need for him to have in his relationship. And you can benefit from that. I mean, if you're a girl, you can have a nice time. But I'm just saying that when your husband is wanting to have sex with you all the time, that's okay, because that's what he's just trying to fulfill his own needs. And if you can initiate sex sometimes, if you're open to having sex with him, even maybe you're not feeling like it, or if you can at least talk to him about sex at a level that is comfortable in the relationship, so you can problem solve things, you can talk about things, you can work it out so that it's a part of your relationship, you're bringing some attention to it.
Yeah.
He's gonna love that. You have to be able to do that, because otherwise you are avoiding a very, very important part of his happiness.
And what he needs.
It's what he needs.
So it's not necessarily innate and natural for a man to talk about your emotional needs.
Right.
And so it's a process, right? You have to learn. First of all, it's taboo, right? Nobody gets to talk about sex. Just to say the word sex in a public setting, people snicker or they shy away. But it is...
Yeah, but everyone's doing it.
Yeah, but everybody's doing it.
I mean, we're all having sex constantly, and we all don't know what we're doing, and it's okay. And no one's talking about it. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing is because it's important in your relationship.
Absolutely.
And we don't mind talking about sex at all.
And if you're willing to understand that men, if you completely can wrap this around your brain, that men need that sexual release and that intimacy in the same way that you need the emotional release and the emotional intimacy, then you can start to understand, which isn't to say that you should just have sex with your man all the time, just constantly have sex. That's not what that means. It's understanding where it's coming from and recognizing that because it is a need, you can take action in your relationship in ways that will benefit both of you. And because taking it away will for sure drive a wedge in your marriage.
If you're a girl and you're watching this right now, if you take it away, you're going to break his heart. You'll break his heart. That is exactly how I would apply it to myself. It's devastating. Also, if you're in a marriage that is currently sexless, I would probably tell you might want to change that, because if you're with a man, he needs that in his life, and the relationship needs that. It's really important.
It's already understood by most men that obviously once you're married and you pick your person, that's your person. That's, I'm only going to have sex with you forever. That's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah, and this is a real deep, there's a lot of things to consider about relationships and men and women when we talk about sex and society. And there's a lot of things we're not going to even go into right now that have to do with this. But I want to kind of start steering people into the direction of thinking that if you're having problems with sex in your relationship in some form or fashion, you know, back up to where you didn't and make sure that you applied the right mentality and thoughts to sex in your own relationship before the problems happen. Because, and I don't want to get into that right now because people can really misinterpret what I'm saying. Really could be misunderstood.
Right.
But what I mean is, if you don't keep the sexual need at a very high priority in your relationship, as a high priority as everything else we've talked about, then that need going unfulfilled will get sought out other places. Right. It is not something they can avoid. I mean, they can and suffer. They'll suffer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of men
make him suffer.
A lot of men won't cheat on their wives. Course, because they're really good men and they love their wives and they've committed their wives, but if they're not having sexual intimacy with their wives, they will.
You're hurting them.
Yeah. You're breaking their heart, right? I mean,
and men don't. You know, if I'm not allowed, obviously, I'm not gonna have sex with anybody else, and I'm not gonna have those kinds of feelings for other women and other girls. So, if I come home and then I get punished for wanting to have sex with you,
right?
You know, then it's like, well, where am I supposed to go?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do?
Exactly, and it's not a switch they can turn off and on like women can. Mm-hmm. That is where the understanding part, what we were always talking about understanding the person you're with is totally different than you, completely, and being able to make them happy, you have to learn about what they need, and it's not going to be what you need.
Right.
I don't need to have sex like he does. Like, there's no way. No way.
Would you agree?
Not at all.
Would you agree that the evidence will good at it? But would you agree that the best parallel?
But I understand that. I'm sorry. You might have something really good there, so don't drop it. But yeah. I understand that if I deny you sex, like, I mean, I can deny you, but if I deny repeatedly and let it stretch for a long time between, or if I'm mad at you, so I'm just okay, well, I'm not gonna have sex with you until you figure this out. I mean, that is extremely detriment and damaging to the relationship, really bad. Yeah. And at the same time, also, girls, remember, your guy should not be using sex to dominate you or either. It's not a power thing. It's not like a I need you, you're my wife, get in here now situation either. That's not cool. That's not what we're talking about. It has to be consensual every time, all the time.
Sure. Hands
down. But, so don't be afraid if you have a good husband, your husband's a good man, I don't think you're going to find that he wants to dominate you. I think it's just he wants you to be intimate with him.
Yeah.
You know?
He loves you.
And if you have sex with him, he's still going to do everything else. It's not a power thing. You can't use sex to withhold. You can't withhold sex to get something, and you can't praise with sex either. You can't reward with sex either. You're missing the boat entirely about sex if that's your thought process. Sex is just like anything else in the relationship for what he needs. He needs it. If you can give it to him and you can have sex with him and enjoy it with him, he will feel respected. Yeah. And he will be happy and satisfied.
It's an incredibly powerful thing between a husband and his wife.
And everything else will happen in spite. So it can't be this sort of power thing trip you play with.
Yeah.
It has to be an everyday part of your relationship. Just like you would ask him to help you fix something, you should be considering his need for sex, especially if he's, bothering you or you guys haven't had sex in a while and he keeps, you need to make it a priority. You need to have some time together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, you can initiate it sometimes.
That helps.
That can really help.
That's a big one.
And you don't have to do that all the time, I don't think. But every now and then, just be happy to see him and just be affectionate and love him and just, It's good.
Yeah. I like it. So guys, that was Chairs. I got to be honest, when one of the coolest things for me when I read this book was I kept reading these things and I'm like, wow, this book gave words. It defined in very clear terms what I had been feeling, and without this book, I probably would not have been able to verbalize and express, and at least in a very, congruent way, in some way that makes sense. I read this book, and it gave me the words to be able to express a lot of the things that I needed. And so, guys, the reason I say that is I recommend, first of all, read the book. Read the book. Buy the audio book, listen to the book, and then read it, and then listen to it again, and get highlighters. As you can see, this entire book, this highlights all over it. It is an amazing book. Read it, and then use it as a tool between the two of you to make your relationship stronger.
Yeah.
Because if you're anything like me, guys, you probably have never been taught to be so open and direct and verbalize your feelings, right? Because that's kind of counterintuitive to most guys. And now that in your relationship, if you have that platform, which you should, this can help you find the words to help her understand ways that you are different. We all know we're different, but it'll help you define it. And then that way you can actually use the you can use your differences and turn them into strengths, and you can make your marriage and it's so much stronger
and way better.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to give it a shot, if you really want to try to be married for a long time, and you really want to do something great with your relationship, have your relationship be greater than you know, then I would say learning about each other, men and women, is incredibly important, paramount. That book, Love and Respect, does an incredible job on explaining what a woman's language is and how you can have your wife so happy and satisfied, like shockingly. And men too. Men need respect and what that looks like for them. And it answers a lot of questions, solves a lot of problems.
Tremendous.
And it gives you a language for each other.
Yeah, tremendous book.
Yeah,
and
really
that's language, ultimately it's about communication.
You're speaking Japanese and he speaks Spanish. And you guys are yelling at each other.
And you don't, it just isn't working.
Nobody understands.
You have to, guys, you need to understand why your wife is different from you and how you can spell love to her and make her feel loved. And ladies, you have to understand how your guy is different from you.
Yeah.
And how you can give him what he needs. This book is huge. It's not everything, but that book is enormous.
Well, the principles of love and respect apply to a lot, just men in general too, outside the book as well. I mean, I've read so many relationship books, I can't even count. I mean, upwards a lot. And I heard that thread through most of them.
Yeah.
And that's why I really dedicated my teachings about, or learnings about relationships to men and women and how they're different, because it was so consistently spread throughout everything I learned.
Yeah. So if you haven't picked up on it yet, we really want you to read the book.
Real life principles too, or real life testimonial too, or practices. I was able to take what I had learned and apply it to my relationship, and was really, really happy with how well it worked. It worked really well.
Guys, that is Love and Respect. I hope you enjoyed that. Please make sure that you comment below.
Yeah, if you
like the video, tell us what you think.
If you have questions, put them in the comments. Let us know, because we would love to read them and kind of think about things from your perspective. If you have stories, if there's a video you want to see us do, we have a lot that we're going to be doing. We're going to be closing out Love and Respect now, so next week you're going to see a completely different video about something completely different from relationships. we'll probably refer to love and respect often, but I think we're done, and that's going to close that for us. But put some comments down for us. Let us know what you think. Please give us some feedback. We really, really appreciate it, and we're really looking forward to this going long and far, and I'm excited to see what it turns into from here. Who knows?
This is fun.
It's awesome.
If you don't know already, we are all the way. It's everything that we do in our life. It's our business, obviously. It's how we approach our marriage, our kids. It literally is how we approach everything in our lives. So we are stoked to have you with us. We are looking forward to next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thanks for watching.
Bye, guys. Okay, do overs.
It's blinding.
Has it been recording the whole time?
No, I just had, yeah. So.
Oh, okay.
I told you we don't record that stuff. But that's
Okay.
not on camera.
What's up?
What's up?
I believe that's the S.
Focus!
And cheers.
People will love that.